right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome. Number four, mic number four, mic check, 1 2 1 2. All right, all right. Well, it's been a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen, and you are listening to the most dynamic show on the air with the most dynamic input in Eastern North Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, your co-host Vernon Garrison, and you're listening to WBIS 106.9 FM. Awesome Radio and 100.3 Rocky Mount. All right, today's contributors are the numero uno head research department, Dr. Glenn Edward Leon Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure if you're listening to us on audio, you are blessed not to see what he looks like. Well, he's a handsome fellow.
Like Sergeant Darnell always says, we both have a face for radio.
He won't give me no volume in my earphones, so I can't hear myself talk.
It is you hear it.
No, I don't hear it yet. Turn it up. Oh, there you go. Turn that one up a little bit more. Praise God. I don't hear nothing. All right, must be the headphones. So we're gonna carry on. I'll read my own lips. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and myself, Vernon Garrison, a friend of yours, regardless of whatever I say that you don't agree with. I still love you to life, everyone. And let's see, we're gonna change the headset so you might hear some crackling noise. We have, oh wow, that's good and crisp. We have our favorite and most, I was about to say most improved. He is the standard. Everybody else got to improve themselves against him. Ladies and gentlemen, there he is. He just put his hand on his crown just then. Sergeant Lee Darnell, weighing in from the Pitt County Sheriff's Office. What's going on, sir? How are you?
Good afternoon, my friends. It is good to see you. Happy to be here.
Outstanding. So now we're looking at, you got the green button and you got the going live. Yeah, you do. All right. So we also have today the one and only, I don't know if he was a former hacker. I don't know. I never asked him that question, how he got so much knowledge on security and data breaches and all of those things that we need to be protected while we're surfing the internet. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a graduate of Pitt Community College and moving forward in higher education. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Muhammad Inab. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, I tell you what, he is definitely one to listen to. We all have issues, in securities when we're online surfing. And today we're going to have at least two spots. We could get him in. There's a lot going on where, security is you're at risk, and we're opening all of ourselves up. We're vulnerable when we're surfing the net. And I'd say that's whether you want to look at it that way, all of us old heads, that's the alternative universe. Living on the internet, surfing the internet, that's the alternative world. Our banking, our livelihoods, our food, everything you can order right from the internet. All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we continue, we want to have a moment of silence for the people who have lost their lives this year to gun violence and even before. We want to pray our blessings on those families, on those deep levels that no one ever sees beyond the media, beyond the storms, beyond our inordinate affection towards looking at violence on television. We don't ever see the grandmas, the cousins, those other people in their lives that suffer loss to, those bystanders that were in there that witnessed the mass shootings, murders, slaughters, if you will. That's what this moment of silence is for, as well as those families that are grieving, in which pain I could never, ever identify with. And I'm sure they can't really explain it. So, ladies and gentlemen, we want to, bow our heads just a moment, unless you're driving. You don't want to bow your head driving, but we just have a moment of silence or respect towards the first responders who, some of them had in their heart, we're going directly into the line of fire because they want to protect me. They want to protect you. They want to protect the citizens because no one has a right to take our lives at their pleasure. So this moment of silence, just for a few seconds, ladies and gentlemen, just for respect. And here we go. All right. See, the world can't stop with a 15-minute news cycle. We just stopped it and we just got it back going. Dr. Johnson?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Coach Garrison. When you mentioned the first responders, and I appreciate you giving them a moment of silence. But I also wanted to just mention, I believe it was last week, if it's not already concluded, but last week was Appreciation Week and Recognition Week for the other side of first responders, and that was our dispatchers and telecommunications. So there was a proclamation issued by the president and the governor. I believe it was last week, making last week officially a first responder telecommunications week, appreciation week. So I hope that got that correct. I don't have a document in front of me.
Okay.
Also, if you don't mind, if I can mention to Sergeant Darnell, I was going to give him a call after the broadcast, but since he's here, I'll tell him now. Sarge, I had a conversation with Trooper Stevenson from the North Carolina Highway Patrol, following a information that was given to him by a sergeant from the Highway Patrol that I met at the Pitt Community College last week. And he's anxious and we're looking forward to coming on and sharing some topics with you. So we'll make that happen. I'll give you information once he emails me. Make sure we're all on the same accord.
Outstanding, outstanding. Before we end, maybe some more housekeeping from Sergeant Darnell. Any announcements from the sheriff's office or law enforcement in general that's first on your mind? Because when we get into this other topic, I don't know, I think I want to follow the podcast format so we can just talk about mass shootings, talk about some data, but other housekeeping or information that you want to serve your coworkers with, our protectors out there on the street right now doing their job as well as yourself. You're muted again.
Yeah,
You have a Muppet Show.
check your mic, Sarge.
Mic check, mic check.
I'll keep it very brief because that's a huge topic for today. Thank you for bringing up Public Safety Telecommunicator Week. With that, this is also Volunteer Week, and we have a lot of volunteers at the Sheriff's Office. Whoop, it clicked back off again. Whether it's the citizens on patrol or the volunteers who go into the detention center, we have chaplains, we have program staff who work with the substance abusers who are locked up in the detention center, people who work with the Sharp and Wear program. We have so many volunteers. The Senior Check program, where we call seniors every day to check on them. We have so many people who volunteer to make our mission successful, and we're all very, very thankful to have them. So we have such a big mission, so many people to serve. Are you still hearing me? Is it working?
It's working now. Yeah, just change the settings. It's working now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So that's about it right now. We have a lot of things coming up that are going to be rolling out in the next probably 3 weeks or so. So stay tuned with us, our social media. We're going to be making some pretty big announcements coming up.
That's great. That's fantastic, Sarge. What other issues are currently going on in Pitt County?
We're just really staying active right now. Along with this topic, we're really working hard to protect our citizens from gun violence, from the opioid epidemic that's just continuing on causing problems for our citizens. And we're really making some big strides. I mean, I don't remember how many posts I made on social media just yesterday announcing big arrests and some big cases, some very sad cases, to be honest with you.
Right. Sarge, the trooper that I spoke to did indicate that he would be here at some time, I assume, but right now they're tied up working on traffic safety and motor vehicle safety. So
Right.
that's why he said he'll make it happen in the future. Is there anything of that issue going on in Pitt County, traffic safety or anything?
Well, just yesterday we had I believe it was 3-vehicle accident on Greenville Boulevard over near 264 over there at Wendy's, Parker's Chapel Church, with 2 vehicles rolled over, 1 fatality, very sad traffic crash. So we're constantly seeing crashes out there. I got two requests in from the public yesterday to step up patrols in areas due to people speeding, driving crazy. So, we really have to watch ourselves out there, and we do take those seriously. I shared those with the Highway Patrol, and I shared those with our patrol deputies so that we can all do our part to make sure that we're safe so that we can help prevent those kind of things that happened yesterday.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, how many people die from gun-related injuries in the U.S. each year? In 2020, the most recent year for which complete data is available, is 45,222 people died from gun-related injuries in the United States. According to the CDC, that figure includes guns, murders, gun suicides, along with 3 other less common types of gun-related deaths tracked by the CDC, those that are unintentional, those that involve law enforcement, and those whose circumstances could not be determined. The total excludes deaths in which gunshots injuries played a contributing but not principal role. The CDC fatality statistics are based on the information contained in official death certificates, which identify a single cause of death. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we talk and as we discuss, I guess if you're just now starting to listen to the show, we want to go ahead and get some figures out if we can, or some information locally. Let's start with the hot topic of the gun itself. I just purchased a permit. It took about 24 hours to purchase a gun here in Pitt County. I think I'm only allowed to purchase one because I just received, the permit, the permission, and the backgrounds, I guess, that complimented me, them allowing me to have a gun. So, but I was not awarded the opportunity to carry that weapon concealed. So, in the meat of the subject, Sergeant Darnell, in the podcast format, why were they allow me to have a weapon, but they told me I couldn't put it in my pocket? What's the difference, sir?
Well, with that, you'll have to ask your legislator. No, we don't write the laws. We enforce those.
Okay. So the difference, so in other words, now to regulate that factor, you go to work, and if you find that I haven't concealed when I shouldn't have it concealed, or if I haven't concealed, I have to be on my property,
Right?
My personal property. What would be the penalty for having the concealed weapon when you wasn't supposed to have one? I guess there's a charge for that, right? Class something misdemeanor, felony.
It is a misdemeanor, carrying a concealed gun. I'd have to look up and see exactly what the penalties would be for that, but it is a charge, one that we see quite often.
And Sarge, and Coach Garrison, what's the name of that federal agency that handles firearms? What is that again? I just can't think of it.
NRA?
No,
it's not. You said
no,
federal
agency. What is it? Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Right.
Yeah. ATF. Yeah, all right. Thank you. I
Yeah.
couldn't think of that for a minute.
Yeah.
Right.
When it comes to, there's a certain percentage of people that are shot with people with a permission to have the gun, and then there's a certain percentage of people that are, a part of gun violence, or folk that shouldn't have one.
Right.
Could you it's just explained? I know Glenn just took a deep breath too. Well, after you hear what Glenn has to say, could you explain the permit process? And I'm not saying go all into the Second Amendment, but what's the permit process, and how are we allowed to have weapons, and how does that so many people relate that to gun violence? So I'm gonna play the middle of the fence. I'm not pro-political when it comes to gun violence, or not. I'm not saying any one group or radicalized. I want to get down to the bottom of who is under what state of mind a person is committing a mass shooter. So I'm just working my way into that. But could you tell us a little bit about the permit process? Because the last mass shooting we had, he had a legal right to have the gun. Okay, help us out.
Okay. Well, first of all, you're aware that North Carolina just had a law change regarding to purchase, correct? Or are you?
I heard about it last week, but I wasn't sure if there was something we were already doing or not.
Yes. That was effective immediately when that change happened. The North Carolina legislature changed the law that's been in place for, I don't know, ever, as long as I can remember, that required the sheriff in each county to issue a purchase permit that would allow you to purchase a firearm.
Right.
And not all states have that requirement, but the legislature enacted a law that would repeal that requirement. The governor vetoed it. Then the legislature overrode the veto. And when they overrode it, that became law effective immediately. So effective that day, the sheriff purchase permit ceased to exist.
Mm.
So as of that moment, you no longer needed a sheriff's permit to purchase a firearm. That day, we stopped accepting purchase permit applications online. The people who were in the middle of applying for trying to get permits, all their applications stopped. We haven't issued any more. I mean, by law, we stopped. Now, you no longer apply to us. We no longer give it to you. If you want a handgun, you go to a dealer and you go through whatever process that you're supposed to go through them, and they will check you through the federal database, and you get approval or denial and walk away with or without the handgun right there at the dealer, and we're not involved in the process whatsoever.
It started almost similar to what's taking place in Georgia. I know you don't represent Georgia, but to my knowledge, Georgia now says that as long as you can prove that you're a citizen in Georgia with identification, you can purchase a firearm. Right. I don't know if Coach Garrison have information on that. They can look it up very quick, but I don't know what their intent for doing that is, but that is my understanding now.
Now, before this legal change, if it was a private sale, say you and I wanted,
41 seconds.
41 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay. If, say, I was going to sell you a handgun that I had, you could get a permit and I could get it from you, write out a bill of sale and be done. Yeah. Well, now it's just between us, and if we mess up, we're still liable, but you don't have to get a permit.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with Sergeant Darnell, the Pitt County Sheriff's Office. We're talking about guns and gun violence. Join the discussion. We'll be right back. This is WBIS LP 106.9, the Police First Responders Report.
Many singles fear
A little bit of lunch.
all our circumstances, even the ones we don't like. I'm Dennis Rainey, and that's real family life.
Hi, this is Coach Vernon Garrison. You're listening to Awesome Radio, WBIS LP 106.9.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are talking to Sergeant Lee Darnell about how a person obtains a weapon and just some practical information about, how we are armed now. And he was just talking about a law change that just happened in regards to you purchasing a permit to get a gun. So it seems like they removed one hurdle of getting a gun, and they're allowing the gun dealers now to take the lead in North Carolina in doing a background check on you obtaining a weapon. I'll say this, and I'll let Sergeant Darnell pick back up. I got mine from a local sports store, and I saw how the background check was sort of interactive. I had the permit, of course, and what you said a person wouldn't need at this moment. But the guy the clerk that was handling my case, he said, I think we got a comment, Johnson, handling my case. He asked me, now I hadn't had the weapon put in my possession, nor the ammunition. Well, I thought they was going to give it to me, but later they escorted me out without it, and then they gave it to me. But anyways, he asked me one question during the application process. He said, do you know anybody in Tennessee? I said, no. And you sure you don't have anybody that you're associated with or family members in Tennessee? And then he stopped and he's like, okay. He carried on with the process. And then a few more moments into the process before I had to take some kind of little examination thing, he asked me, and I asked him, I said, why did you ask me about Tennessee? He said, because just yesterday or the day before, there was a person trying to purchase a gun in Tennessee with your last name. And they said that, okay, that's okay. Because they were denied. He said, that's okay. I'll get somebody else to buy it for me. So that carried way over here to North Carolina. And if I had said, yeah, I know somebody in Tennessee, I'd probably still be there trying to prove that white guy over there is not my cousin or not my uncle who was denied. But anyway, I saw, the arms of them trying to assure or screen me for anything out of the ordinary. So anyways, you were back to what you were talking about the weapon, and then we'll go to, I hope you include, if anybody's got mental illness or anything like that, how did that red flag, even when the sheriff's department was doing their permits?
Well, that's certainly a red flag situation that has to be considered with purchasing and with concealed. carry permits. And those are things that get examined. We will have to gain access to medical records, and there are certain prohibitors at the federal level and at the state level where we're not able to issue the permits, and we just have to look through them and make that determination.
Just another footnote, 2022 is the deadliest year yet for U.S. mass shootings. There have been several this year, and I'm going to pull the numbers for that. Why do you think so? Before we start to explain, you being out there on the force and your experience of a lifetime. Sometimes we open up your vault and we get information. You have been able to see the inclination of street level violence when it was related to drugs. And you can say, oh yeah, people are carrying drugs to protect their little game out there to buy, sell, and trade illegal substances, protect their gang, but now it's gone into we're protecting something, shooting children, shooting anything other than targets. We're radicalized. What have you seen in your opinion on gun violence when it comes to your career?
What have I seen?
Yeah, what's your observation?
I have to be real careful here. I have some strong opinions. But I'll just say that over the years, it's obvious it's gotten worse. We didn't have these things 20, 30 years ago, not like this. Or it certainly didn't feel this way, did it? Or we didn't see or hear about things quite like this to this degree anyway. There certainly seems to be anger problems, mental health problems running rampant that are at levels we haven't seen before. I think it's certainly a problem bigger than what I can just tell you about during an hour-long session here. But what I can say, it's going to take more than just us sitting here during this session to fix. We're all going to have to put our heads together and be calm and cool and get along and meet halfway to do anything about it.
We have there have been 131 mass shootings with 4 more people wounded or killed so far in 2023 compared to 113 this time last year. The United States has faced at least 163 mass shootings so far this year. According to the Gun Violence Archive, there have been more mass shootings than days in 2023.
Right.
I have a thought, okay, back to actually carrying a gun. When a person has a mental health issue, and I suppose, does mental health put in the computer something that will red flag them when they're doing a background check? It sounds like obviously something like that happens. Or do you always have to connect the dots when you're doing a background check?
Well, I don't personally do the background checks. I can't testify as far as how easily stuff comes up.
Right.
But I do know that that does come up and has stopped many that I'm aware of. Those are indicators that keep people from buying weapons in many cases. And I'm aware, I've heard of case after case where people have had to give access to their records, and they've had to been reviewed and decisions be made. So obviously that system has those balances, checks and balances in place to find those things.
Let me go. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Now, I'm not sure now that we're not involved in the purchasing. I'm not sure at all what the current system has, with people going straight to the dealers and just doing federal checks and not going at all through the local systems. I don't know if that's weakened them or if it's strengthened them or irrelevant. Everything's the same,
Okay.
or anything like that.
51 seconds left. And when we come back, Sergeant Darnell, I'm going to ask you a question. This is a surprise question for you. We got to do that as the media. I want to ask you, after I read a little bit about updates on the mass shooting as we're educating the public, what is a good type of, what is a press release, and how do you feel about the press releases that come out after mass shootings? Is there any particular style, or you just do it the way you feel based on what position the investigation is in? Because I got a couple, at least one that really, two at least just threw me off really bad about what the officer, the chief, was saying. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this is WBIS LP 106.9 Police First Responders Report. We'll be right back.
I wasn't prepared to be a caregiver to Mom. I had no idea how hard it would be and what I would need to know. Things I never thought of, like how to improve her mood and ways for me to stay positive. Luckily, I found the Caregiving Resource Center from AARP. It had articles about the basics, but also information about the hurdles I was facing. Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving. Articles, tips, and tools to help you both care for your loved one and care for yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Stephanie with Physicians East with Dr. Armistead, Dermatology. You are listening to Awesome Radio 106.9.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Dr. Glenn Johnson, Sergeant Lee Darnell, Pitt County Sheriff's Office, Mr. Muhammad Inab, social media. He's about to come up here shortly for his social media moment, protecting and serving us in the airspace we serve. All right, here's a report from CNN by Alex Leeds Matthews of CNN Published, 7:52 a.m. Tuesday, April 18, 2023. One day, 7 mass shootings. The number of mass shootings in the United States on Saturday was higher than any other day so far in 2023. According to the data from the Gun Violence Archive, a nonprofit that tracks U.S. gun violence, they spanned across 6 states, killing at least 10 people. The most deadly was in Alabama, where a shooter was targeted. A Sweet 16 party, killing 4 people between the ages of 17 and 23 and injuring an additional 28. Another 2 people were killed in the shooting in a park in Louisville, Kentucky, where the community was still reeling from a mass shooting at a bank on April the 10th. Both CNN and the GVA define a mass shooting as a shooting that injured or killed 4 or more people, not including the shooter. Saturday saw most mass shootings of any day all year. The 7 mass shootings here, and then they have them listed. It said before the weekend, most mass shootings on any day this year was New Year's Day, which saw 6 mass shootings, according to the GVA. Now, looking at the statistics, the largest day was 2020, where there were 15 mass shootings in one day. 2021 following in at 11. In 2022, there were 10 in one day. So this thing has been a real issue. And then at any point we advance it, and any point that we discuss it, it's going to wind up being the way we live in our lifestyle when it comes to me. So, but Sergeant Darnell, the law enforcement officer of the mass shooting that happened in at the bank, I think that was Louisville, Kentucky, I believe. At the bank, he basically said we had a mass shooting. The shooter was alone or there was no one else. I'm just going to summarize because you probably can capture what I'm about to say. He said they consider the shooter a lone incident and it's active shooting, and actually there's no threat of any other violence around this shooting. That's usually a common denominator when they assess if it's still ongoing. But a number of the mass shootings, the public service, they address the public as saying that it's a lone gunman. Nobody else is involved. They say that so fast. Within hours of the investigation, how can you conclude that there was nobody else so quickly? Or how can you even say that seems to be the overtone is conclusive is what I'm saying. We know there's going to be more investigation work done, but it's almost like we got him. We don't need to tell you what we think the motive was. We're still looking, but they're going to speculate whether it's over. It wasn't a group of people. The person wasn't radicalized by some group. So they want to cut you off from even thinking about why this happened. But is there any type of format for giving a public announcement like that you guys have, that you've talked about with Pitt County? Because I know you would be standing up there, the sheriff, and the whole posse. But first of all, what do you think about how they were so conclusive? And now the one I saw yesterday, it was so many. The chief said, and I'm gonna stop talking. The chief said, yes, we're gonna look into it. We have very limited information, blah, blah, blah. He still had a momentous type, hopeful that they're gonna scrape every corner, see if the parents knew or his partners, roommates, anybody. So I'm gonna turn the floor over to you, sir.
Well, no, I mean, there's no formula to it. I don't have a secret book of here's what I'm going to say when we have a active shooter. First of all, I hope we never have one.
Yeah.
If we do, I don't have a book that I'm going to pull out with a script, because you can't script that. You really can't. Because just like the Louisville bank active shooter situation, that is such a unique situation. You're just going to have to sit down and take all the variables, and when you decide to step up to the podium and make an announcement, you're going to have to go with the unique set of variables at that moment and deliver to the public what they need to hear. And if at that point or at any point, I may be doing this today, you're able to say this was a lone gunman, there is not another threat that's active, that's good information to put out. Always a good information to put out. Or, you may need to say lockdown, stay in your home, stay in your office. There could be an ongoing threat. We don't know. We're still assessing. That's something you need to put out too. And so I can't judge what anyone else is saying at a point like that, because I don't know what information they have to go on. I just have to assume that they know what they know and they're making that judgment call.
Sarge, I have a question for you.
Sir.
In regards to obtaining a permit or purchasing a firearm, does that preclude anyone that has an arrest or conviction for violence, rather it's misdemeanor or felony? I know felony you can't, but what about misdemeanor?
It depends on the charge. Certain charges, certain acts of domestic violence, certain assaults and things like that would preclude someone from buying a firearm. Yes.
That's what I figured. Yeah, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have the announcement made, and I've listened closely to a variety. So yes, I agree. I just think that some of those haven't really put. Now, mind you, I can't tell you what I would say. I might get up there and start rambling, or I might have to read a paper because I want to make sure I would say, the right things and have somebody else write it for me. So those guys that stand up there in front of those families who want answers, or can't get access to the crime scene, and and to see their loved one that's been slain, it is probably some real big boy pants you got to put on to do what you guys do. So I probably don't, but I just hope that if we did have to say something like that, it would reflect that, and I know some people might be able to say that because the SBI is involved or the FBI is involved, and they could do a background check that'll go through Interpol and back to the United States in 5 minutes, where you might have to wait an hour. So they, or check somebody's record, but they probably need to go talk to grandma. They need to go talk to the students at school, people at work. And then, they may have a motive. I just think I feel kind of bad about that one, because I'm like, oh, they just cut it off so that we won't, when they finish interviewing everybody, they won't come back and tell us until 10 years later when they do a documentary like they did on serial killers to really show what the person's life was and come up with a conclusion for why people are shooting children. So do I need to ask a psychiatrist, or can I ask the criminologist that question? That is for you, Mr. Darnell. I think the criminologist should have a quick answer, and the psychiatrist or psychologist, PhD, might have a long-term study.
Maybe. I don't know.
But the motives can be determined by you guys, right? Because you go into a hate crime assessment, you do that. I did see one where they was like, no, we don't want to charge this guy with a hate crime because that's a lesser charge here in this state.
That could be, but you have to just what you do.
I'm
right?
sorry, not our state. The state they were talking about.
Well, here you go. I mean, you don't just set out going, well, here's the crime I want to charge. You just gather up all the evidence. When it's all done, you sit down, you look at it, and you let the evidence pick their charges for it. I mean, you don't sit there and go, this is the charge we're going for. You gather the evidence. I mean, you don't set out with the end in mind. You just gather the evidence, you investigate the crime, and at the end, it all comes together the way it's supposed to. You work your way to the proper end, not set out to the end you're hoping to get to.
Is there a difference between? We got to go to Muhammad too. He's getting ready. Is there a difference between the investigation for law enforcement and the investigation of the prosecutor's office? Or do they run the same at the same time? You guys are getting the charge ready. Y'all go ahead and charge them. Well, the prosecutor can bring more charges. So help me out with that, because I'm just sort of a criminal justice student, and I'm just sort of realizing this.
Well, yeah, they are similar and they are different and run together and separate. So they have to prove a much higher standard of guilt. They have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. There can't be a doubt among a jury at the end of the day. So
while you're doing your investigation, they may send you back to go get some, or make you prove what you have actually already concluded.
Right. We have to be able to prove a certain standard to get the warrant, and they're going on and say, yeah, you prove that standard to get the warrant, but there could still be a doubt in a juror's mind. We've got to prove it just a little bit more and keep digging.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come back to Sergeant Darnell shortly after Mr. Muhammad, or in the next segment. We're going to ask Sergeant Darnell, what are we doing here in this area as far as crime prevention or preventing active shooter situations, if we're still training, or whatever he has for us. Maybe he has the state of mind in Pitt County, because we're living right over here, I suppose. All right, thank God. All right, Mr. Muhammad, what you got in cyber security world, sir?
Well, I've got it about remote access domain compliance.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I'm going to be talking about remote access domain compliance. If your business or workplace is remote work, you should always carry out a cybersecurity policy in place so that every employee's access to company data is secure. Without a strategy in place, any employees can easily become an entry points for a hacker to infiltrate your organization's network. In order to prevent any of this happening, you should create cybersecurity policy guidelines complying with security protocols at home or travels. This policy should also include expected use of approved messaging programs with encryption, such as Signal, WhatsApp, updating and patching computer security schedules like updating antivirus or anti-malware software, and protocol on remote whipping device if lost. Besides, remember, besides, without without these kind of methods, you'll only end up creating a backdoor for hackers to gain information. Sergeant Darnell, you recall the time ransomware attacks before last month, right?
Right.
Did you by chance have any cybersecurity policies you needed in place?
Yes.
And then, but then, how come But then, did you pay the charges for the ransom they mentioned?
That was a different government agency, but so I wasn't impacted.
So you weren't not fully aware of it. You weren't
So
informed. Were you informed by it?
I wasn't impacted.
Well, here's what I think you should create. They should always carry out cybersecurity policies so that no one can. So in case if people do things remotely, it can. Besides, hackers do things remotely, not face to face. So if that's the case, you should always carry out cybersecurity policies so that way so you won't be laid any compromise such as data or main servers. They might gain information like everything you've got.
Mohammed, I have a question for you. Why is it not necessary or not? Let me rephrase it. Why are you unable to send someone a software program through an email? Rather, it's compressed zip file or whatever. It just will not work. It's not a virus. It's just you just can't send it or receive it.
Well, you can never be too sure if it's ever safe or not. It could contain a virus. Like, for example, you receive a file, but you do not want to take the chance of looking it or clicking it. Otherwise, you could affect your computer. Or your phone.
Right. Yeah.
Glenn stuff had a virus. That's why I wouldn't know.
We got 3 minutes for the broadcast. But anyway, the reason why I asked, one of my brothers always trying to send me software through the email. I tell him 1,000,000 times, you cannot send software through email. And he attempts it all the time, and it just won't work. I don't know why. I don't know if it's blocked because of the content, copyrighted, or the files just being too large.
That's always the case. Whenever I do programming from C# programming, I also have to send the files, but zip it because there's too much.
It's too much. Yeah, it's too large. Yeah.
Muhammad, charge him $50 an hour to consult with him offline. All right, Mr. Darnell, we're gonna give you 2 minutes to share with us what Pitt County, one program or one thing we're doing to be proactive on active shooters.
Right. Okay. Well, we're all coming together. It's about being proactive. It's about sharing information. It's about not waiting for it to happen and then trying to backpedal. So we're like being active in the schools.
Amen.
That's a lot of it right there. We are using our detectives well. We have a gang and gun crimes unit, and those detectives are working hard. Those
Yeah.
guys are among the hardest working people at our office right now,
Wow.
out doing saturation patrols in areas where we're seeing activity. They're making arrests and removing guns off the streets. And they're really doing a great job. I wish I could tell you some of what I'm seeing that I can't.
And Sarge, can I just ask
Really
you,
coming together.
Sarge, we have 1 minute remaining. Can I just ask you briefly if you could explain the SHARP program?
SHARP program? Absolutely, Doc. They're taking people who are coming into the detention center with controlled substance habits, and they are trying to get them help for that, trying to build their other problems in life and reinforce them so that once they do get out of jail, that we've given them the help not only with substance use disorder, but with other problems in life, so that we've reinforced their family life, their job life, their anger management issues, their parenting issues, their education issues, their GED, all these other issues, so that once they're out there, they're a stable part of society and back on their feet and living in a better world, so that they don't get back in jail, so that they don't reoffend, they don't get back using the substances, they don't get back in that domestic violence situation, so that whatever these problems that they keep getting into are stopped, so that they don't reoffend. And that saves tax dollars, that saves the community, safer community, better families, better world. And right now it's making a huge difference.
Thank you so much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to conclude another broadcast. We're going to stay on a few more minutes to get some more information from cybersecurity. You can stick and stay with us online. That is, we'll be off the radio, WBISLP 106.9 FM.
Oh, now I'm here.
Sergeant Darnell.
Hey, big guy.
All right, we decided to stay on a little bit at the end of the broadcast so people watching the social media view can hear us kind of conclude the show, and we can finish talking to Muhammad because he was about to say something. And I had another question for you before we go though. Let me get out the chair.
What's that? What question do you have?
All right, sorry about that, Sarge.
Yeah, you don't need your headphones. Man. You don't need your headphones.
Oh,
You can hear them on the computer.
all right, sorry about that, Sarge. We just had to make some connection adjustments.
You don't need a microphone either. It's the computer mic. Yeah. So
Muhammad.
you were talking about, turn the headphones down. Praise God. You were talking about how you guys got the proactive things that you don't need that anymore. You were talking about the proactive things that you were doing around here in the area. And I'm like, man, we should have done the whole show on that.
Right.
but give me a little recap of what you got, how what are you doing again now?
Oh gosh, I mean, there are all kinds of stuff, man. A lot of stuff I can't really get into.
Okay,
But
that's what
we
you-
have a gang and gun crimes unit with detectives who specialize in that line of work, and they are working crimes specialized in gang and gun crimes.
And they're not doing stop and frisk, are they?
No,
I mean, I mean stop and frisk in a negative way.
no. but they will work cases involving weapons, involving things along those lines.
Right.
And they're pulling a lot of illegal guns off the streets right now.
Wow.
They're pulling a lot of felons with guns, and they're making a huge difference right now. Very proud of the work they're getting done, and they're it's amazing. They're tying a lot of cases together, and they're getting involved in other people's cases. It's amazing how that comes to play with a lot of other stuff too. And
Well, where are the guns coming from now? We generally find out 10 years later. Sometimes we find out that it was a dirty cop selling guns to people, during the crack war, the war on drugs. We know where all the guns was coming from. If they were stolen, So now we should be better now. Are we able to track these guns and find out that they were people buying them and then selling them to the street people, or what?
well, different things, I suppose, but a lot of them come back stolen.
Okay.
And we're seeing a lot of guns stolen out of unlocked cars, and I still put that onto Facebook occasionally. And I don't know why people leave their cars unlocked, and people go check cars, and if it's unlocked, they open it and go through and see what they can take. They'll take money, and they still find guns in unlocked cars. People just love leaving their guns in unlocked cars.
Oh man.
Yeah, I understand why they do that. But isn't it against the law in North Carolina to leave a weapon in the vehicle?
We get reports all the time of my gun got stolen. Where was it at? It was in my car. Was your car locked? No. It was in my driveway.
That gun, that serial number gonna come back to you. I just went through that process. There's more ways than Sunday that thing's gonna lead back to the owner. And or if somebody you read the paperwork, it tells you if somebody gets it, you're still liable for it. But I got excited. I wanted to know that I didn't want to put you in a position where you say you didn't have the time to talk about what you guys are doing. But obviously, we don't want you to give out your sting operation tips. Right. Well, we're going to be at this address tonight.
Watch.
Right, doing the cops thing, which, hey, I did see part of Pitt County's story on the serial killer show that I watched late last year. The same way they're going to do about mass shooters, they're going to create a whole show 10 years from now and hook all the common denominators as to what the characteristics were. But there was a Pitt County deputy, I can't remember his name, but he was, one of the investigators on the case that spread it here at Pitt County. But I am so glad to hear that we are doing proactive work on mass shooting and active shooters. Any word on now? You can say this while you're just talking to social media and not the radio. All right, give me your take on the AR-15. We already know that's the common weapon. They're supposed to be having mental illnesses. But then all of a sudden they get clarity when it comes to going shopping for a gun that they're going to use in the mass shooting. Come on, man. I got my point of view. You any conclusion yet, or you ain't a criminologist yet? I'm going to go ahead and tell you. It's going to stand. I'm going to stand to be corrected, or I'm going to stand in righteousness. They like seeing that gun, that military weapon. It should not be available to the general public for whatever reason. Like they say, some people in Texas shoot wild pigs with them. They got to shoot a whole lot of them at one time. I guess that's the only person that, to me, could justify the automatic weapon. But I like shooting guns myself. Two things. I want to know why this guy, this serial killer, this mass shooter is shooting children. And I believe that they like seeing those AR-15 bullets mutilate a human body while they're shooting them. And because you don't never see, not even any leaked pictures of a crime scene where there's been a mass shooting with an AR-15. And this guy in Louisville, he just went and bought a gun. So he went in there smiling just like I was. Hey guys, I want a gun. Knowing in the back of his mind, he mad because that bank didn't hire him because he did his internship there. But you can't be that mad. I just, college graduate, I mean, blah, blah, blah. They're trying to study this guy now to see if he has some brain trauma, whatever his name is, to see if he no, it's down, so they don't want to go on the internet.
Should I turn that off?
Yeah, off. Yeah, turn that blue button off. So yeah, that is that's the clear. So nothing about the AR-15. All you know is if you come up against one, you got some stuff to combat that AR-15.
It's called another AR-15.
Yeah.
I gotta get where it goes.
Okay. Muhammad, the only person that I ever heard make you stutter, he asked me, can he ask you a question? So he got something to ask you.
Uh-oh.
You have the floor.
All right.
Then I got something else for you in a minute, Coach.
Okay. Turn that off. Okay. Oh, turn it back on. Okay, sit over there in my seat. All right.
Yeah, I gotta left some stuff running.
Okay. All right. We got.
All right, see you tomorrow.
I think Glenn left a pot of soup on the stove. You got to go cut it off at his house.
He's got to go take a nap.
Something running on my computer.
Something running on his computer, like Roadrunner. You got to go catch it.
I'll call you. So we get
All right.
for a moment.
Okay, Muhammad,
See you,
and
Glenn.
then Sergeant Lee. He said, "See you later, Glenn." All right, Muhammad, and then we'll let you have the last word, Sergeant Donnell. But Muhammad, help yourself.
I've heard there's been a report that PCC, there's been a car stolen at Pitt Community College. Do you know anybody who stole it?
I didn't hear that very well. What
He was
was it?
saying that there was a car stolen from Pitt PCC. And I guess he's looking for an update on if y'all got anybody that stole it yet. That's Greenville PD.
Yes, I mean, like they said, they reported someone stole. They found the car, but they didn't say who stole it or anything.
Oh,
Hadn't heard anything about it. No. Now, if we were investigating it, they'd already be in jail, I'm sure. If we were investigating it, they probably wouldn't have stolen it at all. They would have been scared to steal it. But no, no, I hadn't heard anything about it.
They say it was a white Toyota. That's what I was told.
there you
Yeah.
go. Well, Sergeant Darnell is the Crime Stoppers guy.
I
They
mean,
can call you. How much cash can they get if they tell on somebody for stealing the car?
I'd have to calculate that. They could do pretty good on that one though.
Okay.
Yeah, I could hook them right up.
Right. Okay, sounds good. Well, if I can get a nice meal at the Red Crab, I ain't gonna say any other name. It might be advertising for them. If I can get
Crimson crustacean.
yeah.
They could probably get a few meals there for that. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, making cash, solving crime.
Right.
Okay. Impressive, ladies and gentlemen. Did you hear that? So we gotta do another updated show on body cams and there's so many cameras around the city nowadays. Does the sheriff department have access to Greenville PD's camera operation? Do y'all share that? I guess?
Directly, but they can help us by pulling stuff up. And we have 4 cameras out in the county like that now, and we're trying to get more.
Okay. All right. 4. Oh, y'all ain't got them pointed right at somebody's house, do you?
No. And what houses are actually in view, we actually had the computer people blur out the private property.
Oh wow.
Actually blur out the homes and stuff
True.
because we don't want to capture anything. Nope.
Yeah.
It's all about privacy. Ain't none of our business. We don't want it.
Well, I will say this, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the extended broadcast. We're going to give Sergeant Darnell a final word of what he wanted to talk about. I think he had something he was going to mention. I was at him about the mass shooting a while ago, the weapon of choice, the way Pitt County is being prepared for this. That's what this show is about, so that we can already have an established mode of communication that if something happens, that we would be a key player in them releasing information on the status and allowing citizens to call in and give their opinion. People try cases and come to conclusions in their minds, and they get facts mixed up with rumors or just simple intuition about things. Of course, intuition can be right. So that's why we have Sergeant Darnell on. Absolutely. To keep us balanced, to float in between, these good days we could be having, and sometimes when the sun go down, it could be bad days. But my interaction with law enforcement was going to be a shootout that I was in the middle of over in Winterville, near the a particular little 24-hour restaurant over there. And I was sitting in, I drove by the little 24-hour spot where you get waffles at. And I was like, it's about 3:45 in the morning. What? I didn't advertise.
No.
You just know where you get them at, don't you?
Yep.
And there was a crowd of people in there. And I was like, nah, I'm going to go over there to Pluto Fitness and might go in there and work out a little bit. I might come back and to the Pancake House and get something later. Well, I went and I parked, and like 3 minutes after I parked, I heard pow, 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 pow. Then I saw people scattering from the little spot, and a car comes out of the parking lot and it headed towards the Pluto Fitness, and it turns right down the lane that I'm parked on. So is a blue SUV behind it, and I was like, that must be an undercover cop. All of a sudden, it was like TV style. The people in the car that was in front started shooting out the window back at the vehicle behind them. And the vehicle behind them started shooting towards them. So my question to you is do you shoot at moving vehicles if they're shooting back at you? I don't see what you don't. That'll tell me whether it was a cop or not.
It can be done, but it's a kind of a hairy situation. I mean, they're moving, you're moving. It's hard to control your bullets, and they're going to go somewhere. And there can be somebody on the other end of where it goes.
They were driving towards, on the right-hand side of the building, towards the Virginia Coach factory. I gotta tell you some names. And so I came back the next day and I saw the bullet holes in the wall. But if they'd have been farther over, that would have been next to the Pluto Fitness, and there could have been some stray bullets that went. Well, the way that they were shooting, it could have been stray bullets anywhere, because that place was populated, the 24-hour workout place. And so I'm like, is that a Ford Explorer, or do police shoot back at vehicles that's shooting at them to deter any more fire, or was that two of the parties that were shooting at each other anyways? But later I saw all the police show up, but I thought that there was a first responder who got there because they heard the shot spotter, because all of those shots that came out, and they responded. But it was like 10 minutes before that car was there in probably 3 minutes. So I thought it was an undercover cop.
Probably not.
And probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah. The shooting out of the car at the other car. So it was probably the disputants.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know won't nobody hit nothing. And all of those,
Yeah, probably not the police.
So I'm sitting there thinking, oh man, I'm sitting in the car in the crossfire. And all of a sudden I hear in a one lane over, some more shots start firing. Somebody had came out of the Pluto Fitness and got their gun and started shooting up in the air like, oh, it's 4th of July. They're shooting, so I'm going to shoot. Yeah, seriously.
They felt left out.
Yes. They felt left out.
Jeez.
And at that time, I just leaned my seat all the way back. I was as flat. I say, if I take off right now and there's a mass response from law enforcement from Winterville and Greenville, I know I'm about to get stopped. I'm just pulling out of the parking lot, and everybody's probably looking for the main players or who was shooting. That was a interesting gun violence experience.
Wow.
And my gun was in the trunk, so if anybody had had to approach me, I wouldn't have been able to do nothing sitting in the car.
Well, thank you for not getting yours and starting to shoot too.
No, I know.
Good decision.
And I know what I'm talking about because the guy that was in the car across from me in another lot that started shooting, I saw him walk back into Pluto Fitness and then later come back out with a person, a little lady with them. So they were working out and he heard all the commotion. And so I'm not generalizing here. I saw factually what happened. And so he came out and started firing off. He had to have been shooting in the air because the cars had chased each other out of the parking lot, shooting at each other. I think people feel like if they got a gun, I did meet one guy, a young guy, probably about 6 months ago. And during the conversation, there was a few of us standing around talking. He kept talking about, I wish somebody would mess with me. I'm ready. I'm ready. He kept talking about he was ready so much with his gun that I'm like, dude, you really don't want to go looking for somebody to shoot. I said, you don't understand what's going to happen to you psychologically if you even kill somebody.
Right. He's so ready that he may just be the one to not make it too.
Mm-hmm.
He's out looking for trouble, and yeah.
Yeah, he really was. That's a good conclusion there. I don't know if I would have said that to him because he really, yeah, I guess I could. He would. What if you get shot? Then what?
Right.
You done left everybody if you're, terminated. Wow. Okay. Last words for you, sir. If there's any, again, announcements or conclusions about the gun violence and what you're doing, or any advice for people we want to see. I didn't get to the part that if we see somebody that's very, very visibly disturbed and they own weapons or domestic violence, ladies and gentlemen, that's always a good thing to tend to them, to say, look, now just tell me what's up, period. What's on your mind? Go ahead and offend them, even if they are introverts and they don't talk that much. I think we ought to get into that space a little bit. But anyway, what do you think, Sarge?
All right. Well, couple notes. First of all, if you see something, say something. Talking on your gut. Sometimes you do have a gut instinct. That's right. Do we have people here who are capable of doing these things? Yeah, I'm sure we do. And I'm not in my line of work, I'm not in a position to always speak my mind. Okay. But there are tools out there where you can educate yourself. And one of them is a good friend of mine. Okay. If you would like to do more research to get into the minds of mass shooters, on school shooters, on serial killers, I would recommend a friend of mine. Okay. His name is Phil, Phil Chalmers, Chalmers. You can find him online at philchalmers.com. You can find him on Facebook. You can find him on YouTube. He, for I don't know, 40 years. He has researched these individuals. And as a profession, he goes into prisons and befriends serial killers and mass shooters, and meets with them and interviews them and picks their brains. And he's got podcasts and what have you, interviews with them. He knows a lot of serial killers. John Wayne Gacy, he and John Wayne Gacy were close.
Okay.
A lot of artifacts from a lot of the big names. He has some books on his website that you can get and read to get into the mind of teen shooters, serial killers, and what have you, to kind of learn, at least in his opinion, what is causing some of these mass shooter. And you can, and he teaches a lot of seminars on school shootings, seminars on mass shootings, and with that, he teaches things like things you can look for.
Right.
And that's very interesting if you want to do some research. And I'll just leave that in your hands if you have an interest, and I believe you may have. So
I do.
Very interesting fellow. He's the real deal.
Well, I will be after him because the sociologists and all of those should be incorporating those elements that they see in society now and implementing through mental health, targeting specific audiences. And I am very, very familiar with the mental health operation in their analysis, the yearly report as to what the needs assessment that they do every year, which will, well, maybe every year or every other year for the couple of years previous, as to all of our mental health needs. So I'm sure that information is being integrated quickly. I asked a military guy, we were talking the other day, and I said, why do you think those people shoot children? He said, they're flat out. He said, I know everything about the M16. I know everything about the AR-15 and how they're related. I've shoot both. He said, these people that shoot children, in my words, I ain't gonna tell you what they're flat out cowards. And I said, so you mean that they shoot to children because they're triggered about something else, and they're shooting somebody that can't defend themselves? And I said, that's your interpretation of a coward. He said, they are flat out. He didn't agree with me. He just said they're flat out cowards. And a coward will pick on somebody that can't fight back, or a bully will. A coward is somebody that's afraid, and I guess they can't and don't want to. So I will look to see what the Chalmers school of thought is. And from the way you sound, he's probably got a whole platform that I can start digging into. And maybe if there are some things that they predict that might change. One thing that people think I'm just grasping for straws in the air, if you look at crack cocaine in the 80s, the people were trying to get quick fixes, and another was arrest them all. If you got guns, the gun violence that was attached to it, all of that, we look back now, and the powers that be, like, well, Bill Clinton took responsibility. He said we were wrong. The way we approached substance abuse, I don't know if they call it an epidemic or whatever the demic they call it, the way we approached that whole thing was unsuccessful. It didn't work. Putting all those people in jail. So now, if I can close my statement professionally, we have more drug courts. We got the methamphetamine, meth clinics. We have a whole different recipe for treating this wave of substance abuse that's getting more and more toxic and more deadlier as it goes on. When it first started, it was deadly, and now we got the fentanyl, and you got it. Now you can go and get fentanyl, if I'm using the word correct, You can go get that stuff that if you overdose, you can take it over the counter there in some states. You don't have to wait for a first responder to bring it to you. So we're doing stuff now to respond to that. Now, how are we responding to the mass shooting thing? So I think there could be some answers now, but like you just gave me Chalmers, so I'm gonna look it up and go from there. Yeah.
It's interesting stuff.
I'd say we target these people when we see that they get fired from a job. We show up every day and give them ice cream. We have the Jehovah's Witness go knock on the door 3 times a week. We worry the mess out of them until they get over their problems. And people with extreme mental illness, they definitely need mentors for even grown folks that walk around with them every day. If they're going through suicidal thoughts, we need to go, and just like we got mentors for kids and mental health support services, maybe we need to have that for adults, somebody they can talk to all the time and not just wait to go see their therapist. So I'm prepared to come up with creative ideas for people that go through trauma that really need it, and not just put it on a CIT officer or whoever to go assess them. Yeah, they got doggone schizophrenic symptoms. No, we need somebody with them all the time. But hey, what do I know? Appreciate you, my friend. Be safe. And I need a couple $100, so I'm gonna be looking for around somebody that's trying to open car doors. See people walking all the time, just checking car doors or walking through parking lots, and they checking car doors is not that hard from what I've been told. Just keep going and you'll find a car that's open
quickly. And there may be a free gun inside.
Oh, that's a little bit more you should find in a Cracker Jack box.
Right.
All right, my friend. Well, I appreciate you. I am going to ask Muhammad a couple of questions while we're on the platform in case some people want to hear a little bit more from him. And my friend, I don't know how much I can help you if you need me, but just call me.
Likewise. Thank you for all you do, getting that word out there, and love you guys. Stay safe. You know what I can do for you and the people out there.
Yes, sir.
Love
you too, man.
Do what I can.
Hey, let's go for it, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll talk later.
Take care, guys.
All right, Muhammad, I wanted to ask you, how did you feel about when you were talking about the access?
Remote access?
You were talking about access to information. How did you know the government had this major leak that we just had? How did you feel about the airman who was a part of this network who had access abusing this privilege? And so you're talking about people who don't have access getting in. How about people who have access that are irresponsible with their access and giving it to other people who don't have access? What's your take on that?
I'd say like they just take advantage of what their people they can get. There are a lot of people who do things. There are a lot of people who are corrupt. They abuse their power for other purposes. Those who are with power don't think that little things are no big deal to them, as long as it doesn't affect them like that.
Okay. What do you think should happen in the system? Now you got one person out of many that had access to top government secrets. Should they change every password in the whole government now because it's been corrupted?
If it's been compromised, I'd say you should, because the less people know, the better. The more you see, if someone knows the password, who knows who else gets the leak out of it. You see, information from healthcare, it should always be private. Otherwise, you're only exposing information to the whole. Otherwise, you only expose information to everyone. Like, it could cause an identity theft. It might have people gain their information, accounts, everything.
Okay. Well, I will say this. My credit card was my PayPal business credit card was picked up somehow. And I wasn't even using it. evidently it's this black market thing again, or do you think that they hacked into PayPal system and got my number?
I'd say whoever it is, someone must have sold your information to the black market.
From the PayPal
Well,
office.
Sometimes it could be possible. I mean, think about it. Hackers are everywhere. They do things remotely, so they don't really show their faces of who they are or where they do. Scammers, they can do both: show their face or do things remotely, not do one thing at a time like that.
Okay. All right. Well, any final words that you want to say before we close out today?
A friendly advice: if you've been compromised with a ransomware attack, don't bother using the same technology. Get a new one and make sure you install antivirus software. Keep your operating system up to date and always save a backup. Just be extra precautious.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the extended version of Police Report First Responders. We thank you. I'm Coach Garrison, and until we meet again, God bless and be safe.